there was this hearing yesterday held by Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna, a Republican, yes, but known these days chiefly as the Trump antagonist amongst the GOP. And then Ro Khanna is a Democrat, with alleged Epstein victims out on the steps of the Capitol, saber rattling about how they were going to start naming names and, you know, they were going to provide their own Epstein list. Later, we saw Massey say, okay, the ladies are going to get sued if they actually say these names, but we can't get sued if we say them pursuant to the speech and debate clause on the floor of the U.S. Congress. So that's how we're going to handle it. We're going to repeat their information. Here, woman after woman stood up and, gave disturbing testimonials about Jeffrey Epstein, stuff we've basically heard before. And then there was this strange moment that I do think speaks to a broader problem in the whole Epstein case that came to light thanks to Michael Tracy, independent journalist who you mentioned, who stood up and asked about the best-known Epstein accuser, Virginia Giuffre, maiden name was Roberts, and got shut down. Here is that moment from yesterday in SOT 23.
Yeah, so you represented Virginia Roberts for many years. She eventually had to recant the allegations that she made against Alan Dershowitz. She alleged that on
we're not talking. All right, next question.
Next question.
Thank you.
Who's next?
Why is it that she should be...
Yeah, no, we're not answering your question. Anybody else?
To your question about the allegations, there's a simple answer. Mm-hmm. Release the files. Let the American public decide. Instead of harassing, I gave you your say. Look.
Prominent individual among others.
You're hired by Dershowitz.
And then had to admit other counsel.
You've been heard.
Shouldn't you tell the public about this?
You've been heard. And even Alan Dershowitz has to release the files. Release the files. That is the answer, and that's what we're here for.
Okay, so what does that moment mean to you? Because then they threw out Michael Tracy from the presser. He got forcibly ejected from the event for that question, for being too much of a pest on some of the credibility problems, in particular of star witness number one, who has since passed.
Right, and just to be clear, he wasn't there trespassing. He was invited by Ro Khanna to come and ask questions and to participate. It was intended to be a press conference, which means you open it up to journalists. Not that it's journalists who are going to blindly recite whatever you want them to say, but even journalists who are going to do their job and pose questions to you that might undercut the things you want the public to believe, or at least demand answers to them. And look, I've known Michael a long time. He's cantankerous and can be, sort of very persistent, one might say obnoxious. But let's face it, that is a behavioral trait that a lot of good journalists possess because sometimes it requires that, you have to be kind of aggressive. But in this case, he was behaving himself perfectly well. That question was respectfully asked. It was a premise that was completely truthful. And before it was even done, those women started saying, we're not answering that. Ignore him. So, and as you say, it wasn't just that they refused to answer the question. It was that he was then physically and forcibly removed, expelled from a press conference for the crime of asking an uncomfortable question, which I do think calls into question the credibility of what a lot of these people were saying. Because
yes, is this the truth? Is this a search for the truth or isn't it? Go ahead.
Exactly. And I think the problem with the Epstein case has become that, at least from my perspective, is that there are important and interesting questions. Like, how did somebody so extremely wealthy, how did he become that wealthy? But also, how did someone so completely connected to the world elite continue to be that even after he was forced to plead guilty to felony crimes for soliciting minors for prostitution, usually a crime that would result in your instant expulsion from decent society and a far lengthier jail term than he had. He got a very sweetheart deal. What kind of ties did he have to foreign governments or domestic governments? These questions are legitimate and have never been answered. On the other side, though, this case has been wildly sensationalized, including by a lot of people who are at the top level of the Trump administration, who out of power over the last 4 years spent a lot of money, a lot of time making a lot of money pounding the table, accusing the Biden administration of concealing these documents to cover up very powerful predators. And so you sort of have these two extremes competing with one another where the truth lies in between. And I think the Epstein case has kind of become this proxy or stand-in for the very valid distrust that people have harbored for a long time about what globalists and what global elites really are doing, what, the kind of lives they lead, the complete detachment that they have from the common citizen. But you still want it to be grounded in the truth. You still do want journalists, even when it's difficult. You know how many times Michael Tracy gets accused of, raising skepticism because he's a pedophile and wanting to protect pedophiles, which is absurd.
Lord.
You want people kind of always, pushing back a little bit and saying, wait a minute, before the mob gets too carried away, let's look at what the real evidence is. And for the crime of doing that, he was kicked out of a press conference, the supposed point of which was to disclose the truth.
I'm sorry, but it was very wrong. Like, anyone who is a legit, quote, survivor or victim would be able to answer those hard questions, would have no problem answering those hard questions. And the fact that Virginia Giuffre has died does not mean we cannot question her story. She herself admitted in her settlement with Allen when she dropped her claims against him that she may have misremembered what actually happened in that case, because he essentially forced that admission from her by providing all sorts of actual evidence, like, plane tickets and so on, that proved he was nowhere near Epstein or his island, et cetera, on the dates she said he allegedly had sex with her. And so, in my opinion, she got away with far too much. She actually should have been forced to pay some sort of a penalty for what she did to Allen. And I don't know who else she lied about. I believe she was an Epstein victim. I actually do believe that. But beyond that, I can't say. I know that Virginia Giuffre lied. She definitely lied a fair amount. So totally fair question. This is it's just spun to this very Salem-y kind of place. And everyone should have a big asterisk on everything they hear in this case. Like, at this point, it feels like one large manipulation. We'll do our best here to make sure that doesn't happen. When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Well, you'd be right. Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit right now. Just text MK to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to $10,000. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before September 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and get your free info kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.